All right, welcome to week 7 of the Coaches Show. After a big week, fun-filled week with homecoming, a lot of things going on. And like you've said all week, everybody shows up to watch the football game. You got to cap it off with the win at a football game. So
it was awesome. Crowd was awesome.
And a win we did, yeah. So always joined by Austin McNorton in studio tonight. So
I am not a jinx.
You are not a jinx.
I am not a jinx.
We found that out last week.
Go.
He is not a jinx. And
thank goodness.
Always appreciative of Coach Holting sitting down with us. Let's start with the top there. Smoky Valley, big win. What was it, 47-30? Right. Although I don't think it was as close, really. It doesn't seem as close as a 17-point.
I felt
game.
like
it felt closer. It felt closer than that.
Well, I felt like we kept him at bay. They never got within one touchdown after that field goal to end the first half. It was always a 10. It went to 17, and then it went back to 10. Then it went to 17. Then it went back to 9, and then it went back to 17. So I thought we kind of kept them at bay. At least it didn't get to a one-score game. But to their credit, they kept coming back and coming at us. And, we had some breakdowns defensively and coverage. But I was really proud of our offense, the way they responded, moved the ball when we had to, scored when we had to, put some good drives together. Because anytime you score 47 against a good team like Smoky, you're going to take it. Just want to allow a little less.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, we talked about it kind of in the beginning of the season on our first podcast in week 0. We talked about you wanting to create a culture here for Pratt High School Greenback football. And Friday night, you talked about how incredible of a crowd it was and just the whole vibe of the city on Friday. Yeah. Do you feel like this culture is really growing?
Well, I think culture's, it's a plant you've constantly got to prune and maintain and water. So I think we're always working on that. And, I don't know if it's ever going to be where we exactly want it, but I think we're always working on it. But I am really proud of our kids. We talked about Friday night after the game. This was my first group that came in as freshmen, and obviously we know the first couple of years we didn't have a whole lot of success. And for these kids to stick to it, keep buying in, keep working hard, and then be rewarded with back-to-back league titles. Obviously we got, we've won a share for sure, and we would beat anybody that we could tie with, but we want to win it outright this week against Nickerson, so we still got that to do. But really proud of our kids for that. Hanging banners is hard. If you go look, it's really hard. So I'm really proud of our kids. And then this community is incredible. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff going on last week, but man, that crowd was a lot of fun on Friday night. Mm-hmm. Our kids had fun with it. Anytime you have a crowd like that, it juices you up a little extra, and it's awesome to get a win there.
How big was it getting out to that early 14-point lead? Because that was kind of the gap of the whole game, kind of that 14, then 10, then, never really got too far away or too close from that 14. So us getting those 14 first, I thought was huge.
Yeah. When we talked about that, I think on the pod or pregame show last week, that what was big was getting up early with the two types of teams that were playing. They want to control the ball. Now they threw the ball really, really well. And we want to control the ball and control the clock. So I thought, when our defense came out with their hair on fire, their first 3 possessions, we got 3 and outs, and we're able to go score twice, and I guess we got 2. Yeah, we scored twice, and then their third possession they scored, and then we came back and scored again. Offensively, we only punted once all night that first drive of the second half, and we had a couple miscues there. But anytime you only punt once all night and you score a touchdown every other drive except for the field goal when we ran out of time, I think you got to be happy with that offensively. But to their credit, they kept battling too and kept up score for score, like you said, after those first 14 basically. But so I think never letting them get comfortable and get in their rhythm where they could really try to grind the clock was a big deal. And I thought our kids, I think they play with confidence when they're up. So I did think it was a big deal to get up 14-0 early, and then we always had the upper hand, always had the advantage, always putting pressure on them to have to do something. I think that's your advantage if you can do that all game.
Do you think that's something that you can build upon, that you saw your offense on Friday night continue to say, all right, they scored, we got to go score again, and they were able to answer the call every single time to say, all right, we got to go score again, and you did so every time to say, all right, now headed to an Andale looming, a postseason game looming on the road to say, all right, when we need to score, we trust that we can.
Yeah, I think, the last 2 weeks have been big on that. We didn't punt at Hoisington. And
ever since I questioned your punting, we've only punted once. So I thought maybe I was in your ear each time during these games. Ever since Cody questioned me,
you asked about we went for 50 seconds left at Hoisington.
I was going to get.
There
were
only 44 seconds left.
I was
this first half when we got the field goal, and that's I've told you I'm always going to trust our kids, and always going to trust them because I believe in them. And we were able to come away with some big points. You know, that field goal before half was huge. Yeah, I think our kids have confidence. You know, we move the ball. I think what stats came out today, I saw they compiled the stats, and right now I think we're fifth or sixth in scoring offense in the state. We're second in rushing offense in the state in 3A, and so that's our identity. That's what we want to do, and I think it gives you confidence knowing everyone knows you're going to do that, and they still can't stop you. And so we've got to get better in a lot of areas, but I think our kids know, especially, you know, going back to since the Cheney game, our kids know when we execute and do what we're supposed to do, we do some really, really good things, and we've got some really good kids. And so I think that gives you confidence, knowing, man, if we lock in and execute, we're hard to stop. You know, so I think that's the big thing.
We were joking a little bit about the punting earlier, but Friday on the punt return side of things, we saw a little bit different setup than what we usually see. We had Johnny and Jair back there kind of splitting the field. And we talked to you a little bit about it post game. Was that just so they can't punt away from Johnny?
Right.
I mean, if you're going to punt away from Johnny, then Jair's getting it. Or
and Jair, Carson, Johnny, whoever's back. I mean, we got three guys in those three that are really, really dangerous with the ball in the open field, and I think we've seen that. So we feel good about any one of them getting it. But yeah, I mean, obviously Johnny's a special returner, and teams were really starting to angle kick and try to kick away from him. So we thought, you know, we'd put someone else back there and try to make sure that they couldn't do that. Angle kick away, and then they're saying, okay, there's already got someone over there, so I'm just going to kick it. Well, then, you know, you don't have as much control.
I don't think we had any punts hit the ground, did we? I mean, they all got a chance for a return.
Right. And that's what we want.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we want, because that's, you know, that hidden yardage game, and that was big, and we actually missed a couple blocks. I thought we could have broke two of them. I mean, Johnny was a shoelace twice from breaking it. So, you know, that's what we want out of that, and hopefully we'll hone in on our execution a little more next week and break one or two.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, because everyone says, oh, special teams wins you games because it's kind of the X factor, and there's only been one game I think we can agree on all season where you haven't won the special teams, and you've won all the games that you have. So talk about how important it is, because we saw it on Friday night with the field goal at the buzzer. You just talked about the punt and kick return game, and then obviously the kickoff game is also a big weapon to have too. So talk about how truly special it is, and is this one of the positions as a head coach you're like, man, I feel like we can win special teams every week?
For sure. For sure. With the returners we've got and then the kickers we've got, you know, we feel pretty good about being able to do it. It's just executing. And you know, like you said, the only game we lost, you know, they outgained us by 20 yards per punt and net average. And they put a couple, you know, we only put one in the end zone. They had the safety, which by the way, we sent in Acacia and they told us was the wrong call.
This was
we knew.
This was the
the
fumble,
Cheney game,
horse collar.
Well, that one they also disagreed with.
safety.
Yeah, I sent that one in. I got
yeah.
word back, and that one was not
crazy.
Correctly called. And then the
Good.
2-point
Now I feel
conversion
better about me complaining on the radio all the time.
we
We're right.
and then the 2-point conversion against Cheney should have counted. And then the safety should not have. It should have been a touchback. So yeah, that was what, a 10-point swing in that game.
Kind of,
but I'm not crying about it.
No,
You're still not thinking about it.
Pivot there a little bit though. How does that process work? I didn't know when you send something in.
They have rules.
I assumed you could send things in, but I didn't know they would.
They have a huddle
respond
account,
to you,
and what they will do is tell you if the rule was correctly applied or not. I mean, they're not gonna like they said, you know, and they did a great job. Officiating is really hard, and like the horse collar stuff, you know, the whistle should have been blown when he was down, and that negates all the rest of it. And they agreed it probably wasn't a horse collar, but I can also understand that they get the benefit, and so do we, of replay. Whereas when it's live, it's a lot harder. You know, it's a hard job. And so not to, you know, they don't mean to make mistakes. They're human, just like the rest of us. And so that's hard. You know, obviously you want them to get it right, but sometimes stuff's not going to go your way. And that to me is the mental toughness thing. Can you dig deep and fight through adversity?
And we did there. Thankfully, you know,
we
we came
still
back, scored 2 plays later and got those points on the board and didn't let that just take us out of our rhythm.
Right.
Yeah. Little going back to homecoming week a little bit. A lot of people back in town. One of my classmates, Lieutenant Colonel John Schwartz, was here, and you had him come speak to the team Friday morning. Tell me a little bit about that speech, or did you get a hold of him? Was that scheduled? How'd you get him in to talk to the boys?
He kind of talked to
what was his message?
School, said he would be willing to talk, and then so we got a hold of each other and started talking. You know, I kind of gave him a framework of like, I think this would be. He said, "What would you want me to talk about?" We talked about it, and his message was awesome. I mean, he talked about. It was funny. I said, "Guys, I swear I didn't put him up to this speech, but you know, a lot of the same things we talk about. It means so much coming from someone as successful and as him. Obviously, he talked about effort and attitude. You know, and how, you know, he said, I know your coaches probably tell you all the time, but but he said, man, I'd take all this off to put the pads on for Pratt High one more time. And
Maybe
some of the
we can
kids
get it
asked
back
him,
for week 8.
No kidding. Some of the I would take him still. Some of the kids talked to, asked some questions. What was your favorite moment? What's your best football memory as a greenback? And that was really cool. And he talked about some of that. But then he talked about that. And one of the things he said that I thought really resonated, he talked about, football is such a life game and a team game. And, he talked about how everyone has a role. And sometimes you may not always love it. You may not get the ball as much as you want. You may be put at this position instead of that position that you want. And he talked about one thing that the Army has taught him, life had taught him, and he knew growing up is bloom where you're planted. And he said, whatever you do, he told a story about how when he became a lieutenant, they put him on snack bar duty. He was like, what, snack bar duty?
Right. I signed up to fly fighter jets. I'm on snack bar duty.
Right. And he said, but I said, you know what? I'm going to be awesome at this. He said it probably wouldn't, did anything bad to me if I would have just kind of been average at it. But I decided to be really good at the snack bar, and people noticed. And then all of a sudden, when you do really great at something like that, then they move you to bigger and better things. You don't have to do stuff
to the
like
salad
that
bar or to
right. Yeah, I don't know what they moved into. Obviously, bigger and better things.
Yeah.
But no, he talked about that, and he talked about whatever you are. I would use the quote. Actually, it's up in the weight room right now. Abraham Lincoln. Whatever you are, be a good one. If you're a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper that you can be. If you're a garbage collector, be the best garbage collector. If you're, if an athlete, be the best athlete you can be. And I think that fits in with that. Bloom where you're planted was kind of his message, and it was really, really awesome to hear him speak. And it was a cool experience for our kids to listen to someone and see that someone, from Pratt is that successful and going on and doing the things he's doing, starting from Pratt High School, and he's obviously a Pratt High School football legend. And so that was really neat. It was a good way to start the day and pretty fun experience.
Coach, do you feel like, because you preach it at the beginning of the season, so do you feel like some of these kids, the seniors especially, are starting to grasp that of like there's only 3 guaranteed games left this year?
I think we've seen an increase. I really do, since not that you ever want to lose, but I think since the Cheney game, we've really seen an increase in leadership and accountability. And one thing we do talk about all the time is great teams are not coach led; they're player led.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to get on them all the time, and that's going to happen, you're going to have times where we have to do that, but overall it should be player led. And I think our kids have done a great job of that lately. Like I said, and I've shouted him out before, Carson Hamey is really stepping into that leadership role and done a great job there, and other kids too. But Carson's been much more vocal, and I know that's not always natural, and he's done a great job with that of trying to hold people accountable, getting on when he needs to, and commanding the huddle and all that stuff. So I think we've seen a ton of growth there, and our kids know, and I think our seniors kind of know, man, it's coming down. It doesn't matter you go to state championship or not. I mean, the season's half over. So that's crazy to think about. And so you want to enjoy every moment on that practice field, every moment on the game field, just treasure those moments with the pad and helmets on with your buddies, because football's a game you can't replicate when you graduate more than any other sport. So hold on to those. And John talked about, make sure you don't regret when you step off that field, when you take those pads off, don't put them down and then 20 years say, man, I wish I would have did this better. I wish I would have worked harder. I wish I would have paid more attention to detail. I wish I would have watched more film. So it was a great message, and hopefully our kids really grasp onto that, because it's a great message for life too.
Let's get to some awards from the game. We never did we couldn't come up with a hit stick from that game. I mean,
that was a tough one.
You said you didn't give them out in the Cheney loss, but we thought for sure against a win, there's got to be a hit in there somewhere.
We
Maybe
gave
after
it,
going back, watching some film.
repeated. We gave it on that one. If you remember, they ended up scoring 2 plays later, or a play, 2 plays on 4th down. But Jair came up and hit their
pass?
dive. No, on the fullback on the middle at about the 2-yard line. It was just him and Jair, and that kid's 230 pounds. And Jair stuck him and stopped his momentum.
So back-to-back hit sticks for
Jair.
Hit
stick for Jair.
Boom, that's boy Jair.
That's great.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so, no, I thought he played great. I told the kids, Jair played great. He had 15 tackles on Friday night, but the problem is we never want our safety leading us in tackles.
Exactly, which Schwartz did for our teams most year.
Yeah. Now, that being said, Jair does a really good job of reading, flying downhill, and doing some great things there. But, I thought he came downhill and had enough hits maybe to cumulatively get that. And I thought that one was pretty good because that kid's pretty big.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a
and he
big
ran
kid.
hard
And,
too.
Right, and he ran hard, and it was just him and JR in the hole. And we saw that's hard to do if you see any of the highlights of the Andale Collegiate game. Wesley Ferris committed to K-State, and him and Riley Marks met at the 1 yard line, and it didn't go as well for Wesley as it did for JR on Friday night.
Yeah.
So that's hard to do, when you're a safety coming down on a fullback, and so I thought JR did a good job there.
Moving on then, let's see. MVP, who do we give it to in the booth there, Austin? Do we give it to, I think we gave it to Johnny.
Yeah.
He had just a big overall round
Yeah.
game.
And we gave Co. It was hard. I just, after watching film, Johnny and Max, I thought both had fantastic games. Johnny had 110 yards rushing. He had 60 receiving and about some around there. And Max had 150 some rushing. And, and obviously Max threw him the 2 touchdowns. I thought they both had great games. I'm really proud of how, obviously Johnny's battling an injury, but how hard he runs and quick and decisive. And Max, I think Max has really picked up his game. He's running really, really hard right now. He's moving a pile at the end of piles, getting 3, 4, 5 more yards. And
We say that. Yeah, we say that all the time. You'll see a pile form up, and then 4 yards later, the pile's still moving. It's like, my gosh.
Yeah, and finishing more runs, running with leg drive. He's being a little more decisive, and then picking his spots to be patient because he is that Le'Veon Bell patient type runner. So I thought both of them had great games. I thought JR had a great game defensively, but I thought both of them really set the tone offensively for us and made big plays every time we needed it.
Fantastic.
Special teams player, I can assume. Like if DraftKings took high school sports, he'd be like minus 1,500 every game, Adrian, to win special teams player.
Maybe if we'd have broke one of those punts, but yeah, obviously Adrian's kicking game.
Yeah, that field goal was huge. The one against Hoisington was kind of more of a let's test it out, see if we can do it.
Right.
That one Friday night against Smokey, that one had some pressure on it.
Right.
And like I said, from the left hash,
he had to
one
angle
center
it.
of the field. So big time to see that he could come up under pressure and put that through.
Huge.
And you even said it wasn't even one of his best kicks.
No, he didn't really get all of it. Now I thought there was a couple extra points that were gonna hit the houses across the street that he really got into, but no, I didn't think he. But that's a luxury when you don't kick it as hard as you can and still kick I think it was a 32. So not, but in high school football and the other one was 42. Anytime you have that, you got to feel really good about that in a half, in the games, whatever. Knowing that you've got a really good chance to convert there. And Adrian does a great job. He listens. He's fundamentally sound. He's getting better and better every week at that. So I think that's a big weapon to have, special teams wise. Yeah, so he deserves it. More often than not.
Nice. All right, then roll into practice. Who was our practice player of the week? And do you give a most improved player?
Practice player.
Just practice player
of the week. Scout team player of the week. Creston Poor's really been doing a great job for us.
Oh, you're going to love the caller we have tonight.
Oh, man.
He's great.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we got a phone in from Chad Poor. So,
I am more terrified of that one almost than I am of anything you could come up with. No, Creston does a great job, and you talk about a kid that's came a long, long ways.
well, hey, he took my daughter to
physicality-wise.
homecoming, so I don't know how. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of him yet, Creston.
I still think Ryan may be able to bench more than him. So
She did say that yes, Friday night or Saturday night.
Right.
no, Creston does a great job. He gets in, never complains. Obviously, playing Scott the quarterback, gets hit a lot and jumps right up, never complains. Obviously, plays special teams for us as a freshman. He does a great job, and he's going to be a special player for us by the time his career's over.
Wow, I love that.
All right, well, let's see. I think we should get to that phone call then before we move on to the
Definitely,
next.
yeah.
We brought it
Man.
up.
For sure.
Now, I bragged on Creston. I don't know about Chad.
Yeah, there's not much to brag on about Chad. All right, we're going to get to the phone call from the legendary Chad Poor. Here we go.
Oh, gosh.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to my call. This is Chad Poor, first-time caller. I don't listen to the show because the guest isn't that great. But hey, just had a quick question. I love watching the games from the stands and the sideline, and I know sometimes Coach Holting can get very heated with the officials there. And so I'm just curious, if he ever crosses the line with one of the officials and gets tossed out of the game, like what is the line of succession there? Who's the next coach in line? Is that Strong? Is it Coach Brown? Not sure which one that is. And then I also just want, as a follow-up question, was curious if the reason that he gets so heated and stuff sometimes and fired up about that is because he's the shortest coach on the sideline. So appreciate you guys.
hurtful.
Keep doing what you're doing. Look forward to hearing the answers on this one.
Ouch. Ouch.
Hey, guys.
It is. It is
Yeah.
terrible being the shortest.
I'm curious about that, though. Who is the what's
well, that
the
would
line
never
of
happen. It's
succession?
never.
Have you ever come
gotten-
close to that happening?
Not even close. No. No. In fact, I can only
awesome.
think one time in my entire career have I got a flag, and he actually apologized after the flag. I was a defensive coordinator, and I was young at Chanute, and the ref said, "Hey, I'm not listening to you. I only listen to the defensive coordinator or head coach." When I was telling him they tackled us on a screen pass, they can't do that. That's defensive holding. And he was like, I'm not going to listen to you. I only listen to the defensive coordinator, head coach. I said, I am the defensive coordinator. No, you're not. And he threw a flag, and then came over, and our head coach was like, what is going on? He's like, I'm not listening to your assistant here, this young guy, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, he's my D coordinator. Well, dang it. He's like, I didn't know he was. I thought it was Doug over here. And I was like, oh, he's like, no, it's him. And so, yeah, that was the only time I got a flag thrown on me in my career.
Good.
So no, I don't think you talk to them though. You have a dialogue. Those guys, like I said, it's a hard job, and I think in general we I'll talk to them, and I want to get their explanations on stuff. They'll explain it. Okay, we move on. So we tell our kids, but that's a great question. That's a great question. I think it would probably be by committee. If that, but that will never, I would never allow, we talk to our kids about doing stuff that hurts the team, and I would never do something that would hurt the team like that. I think you got to know the line with everyone and every official and know what you're talking about. And also they know, they come over. There's been several times, hey, we messed that up. Okay, great. I'm glad you admitted it. You're human. You make a mistake. Let's move on.
Is that how you react when your kids that say, the kids come over to the sideline? Hey, coach, I messed up.
Yeah,
and
honestly,
you say, hey, you're
kids,
human.
If the
That's
kids
great.
come
Let's
over
move
and
on.
say, hey, I messed up, it's when we try to give a reason for why we messed up. That probably, and we talk about it all the time. We demand ourselves of everybody. We demand excellence. And that's hard sometimes. And it's hard for kids. And you game, you're amped up. I think we've got a passionate coaching staff. And our kids know that. And we tell them all the time, like, hey, we're going to get on you. You're going to know we love you. We tell them at the end of every game, at the end of every, post game. I tell them that before we ask them what kind of day it is, and tell them I love them. And so they got to know that, they know, I'm hard on my own kids. I'm sure Cameron could probably call in and tell some fun stories.
That might be great for next week.
Wow. That probably wouldn't be good. No, we're demanding. I think that's the way you go through life, and I think that a lot of times you tell kids people that demand the most from you care about you the most, and so our kids credit, we responded to that. We challenge our kids at halftime, like, hey, we're letting them in this game. Let's go end it and let's fight this half. And I thought our kids, anytime we needed a big play, our kids made it Friday night. By and large, and so that's a product of them. Our kids are tough. They play tough, they play physical, and I think that all goes hand in hand. You can't coach soft and be physical. I don't think that works. Maybe it does. I've never seen it work. So our kids know that. They do a good job with it, and they respond and they work hard.
All right. So after a tough 3-4 game road stretch, come out of it 3-1. Kind of over that tough
5 game.
Yeah. Throw Heston in there. Yeah. Kind of get out of that bulk of the season. Nickerson coming up this week. Last year we beat him 54-18. I don't know. I don't know where to go from here.
Their quarterback
it's gotta
really
be,
gave us some
does it give you a little
trouble
bit
last year.
though to exhale? Where you're not like, okay, I don't want to assume anything and say we're going to win this ball game.
You can do that as the coach. I think I told our kids this week. Yeah, are they down? I mean, obviously we're not blind. We can see the score against Andale, and obviously Andale's the class of the state.
I don't think you can take anybody's performance against Andale.
And we've seen some of their other scores, against like opponents, and what I tell them is, you only got a few guaranteed games left. Don't leave something out there. Don't leave anything for granted and say, oh my gosh, I didn't prepare for this. Or even if we beat them, man, that game, you want to have great memories. Don't talk about, oh my gosh, we played so terrible that game because we weren't ready to play. And nobody wants that. You don't want to talk about that. So let's do what good teams do, and let's go out there and perform like we should. Let's execute and work on us. Let's work on us and what do we need to get better on. And we've been really working on paths this week and angles and taking great ones, getting off the ball and making correct reads defensively, because I thought we really, really struggled with that the other night. and those will be good because they do a lot of counter, a lot of stuff like that. Their quarterback really hurt us. He's a good athlete. He really is. He hurt us last year. If you remember, he had 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns last year and got free just scrambling around. So we got to contain him, keep him in the pocket because he is a good athlete when he gets outside of it. And then I think it's working on us, working on the stuff that we've got to do to get better to go to where we want to go.
Coach, looking at some of your defensive things, you mentioned some things you want to correct. So kind of explain to the listeners and maybe myself too, like what are some of those reads that those defensive backs are looking on that you're trying to work on now headed into the end of the season that you're saying, oh, they missed that. What does that mean exactly?
The hardest thing defensively and any defensively you're trying to stop them. The hardest thing to do is discipline yourself not to be a ball watcher, right? We don't want them to watch the ball. I mean, you've seen our offense. The ball can go everywhere. It can move all over. We can hide it. We can do all kinds of things. So when you start watching that and you start following it everywhere, you can be kind of like a dog chasing its tail. And so I think that's what we got caught doing several times. The other night is especially at corners and stuff like that, peeking into the backfield. You start watching all the backfield action, and the guy all of a sudden comes down a little bit and then goes out for a route, and he's wide open because we lost him, and didn't know where he was because we're watching the ball. So I think that's the big thing is being disciplined enough to read whatever key. And every week we have different read keys depending on what they like to do, where they like to do it, out of what formations, all that stuff. So the big thing is being disciplined and reading your key and doing your job every single play. If the tight end goes down, we wanted our corners flying down to insert. If the tight end releases, obviously they got him. And so we didn't always do a great job of that, I thought. And that's the same thing. I didn't think, our outside linebackers were supposed to key. If the tight end dives in, we're supposed to insert on the double dive, and we didn't insert real well. We're supposed to keep contain if we don't have a tight end on our side, if we're a DN. Just all that stuff. All that stuff goes into it. We were supposed to pull the trigger on the fullback and then slow play. Conversely, if it went away from you, I didn't think we slow played a lot. We overran stuff. So just a bunch of little stuff, that ends up looking like big stuff. Against the better team you play, they're going to take your mistakes and magnifying larger every time. Right. Sometimes when you play teams aren't as good, you can get away with stuff that you normally shouldn't get away with. And then when you play the good teams, you really got to focus in, and you've got to make sure that you're locked in and you read your right key every single play. Every single play. It's got to be a discipline 100% of the time because – when we tell our corners and safeties this, it may not be fair, but linebacker can make a wrong read, and it may be an 8-9 yard gain. Corner or safety make a wrong read, then it's a busted coverage.
Yeah, and everybody sees it.
Everybody knows it. And that stinks, but that's why those jobs are so important, and you've got to really, really lock in and read your keys every play.
How important is it in a game like this week where, theoretically the JV could get a lot of playing time to get some of those younger kids a lot of game action against, some varsity opponents?
I think anytime you can do that, you want to do it. Just being out there on Friday nights, our kids have grown a ton throughout the year, JV-wise. We beat Smoky 48-20 on Monday in JV, and that's, we're holding back 4 sophomores and basically every junior, we only have a couple juniors going with them, so 3 juniors. So they're mostly freshmen, a few sophomores and mostly freshmen. So I think our kids have grown a ton because I think experience pays dividends. Anytime you can get more and more experience, Friday nights under the lights, but anytime you can get more game experience with game reps, with officials, with a play clock, with all of that stuff, us not standing over them, us being on the sideline, they have to make decisions because I think that's the biggest thing. When you're out there on your own, you have to understand and make decisions, and that puts that onus of responsibility on you. So sometimes it tells you you're out there. No one wants to embarrass themselves by not knowing what they're doing. So it tells you, man, I don't know this very well. I better go back and study a little more. I better get in the playbook a little more. I think anytime you can get that experience, it's good and it pays future dividends.
The final question I have for you, and maybe it kind of goes back to last game. Do you practice, because you executed the 2-minute drill to perfection against Smoky Valley? Is that something you practice throughout the course of the week of trying to get down the field and score when you have to with little time left?
We practice it, probably not. I'll be honest, probably not as much as even maybe we should, but our kids really do a good job with it. And it's one of those, we try to prioritize with only so much practice time. Yeah, that's something we practice. Our kids do a good job with that. They stayed really calm. Mm-hmm. We made a couple little mistakes, not getting out of bounds on catches or getting upfield and trying to dance. We always want to take the direct route on 2-minute drill and then, try to get down and get another snap in because all those seconds add up really, really quickly. And we can get first downs, even if we, in high school, even if we don't get out of bounds, it stops the clock till they reset the chains. So we really want to hustle there. But I was really proud of our kids. They didn't panic. We made plays. We're able to move it, 40 some yards in 40 seconds and get a field goal out of it. And that's pretty good execution, and I'll take that any day.
At this point in the season, what do you think Adrian's range is? Have you tested it out in practice? You tested out pregame both ways, see what the wind is. No wind on a
State
field.
secrets.
At Zerger. Okay. Trade secrets.
No, he's
I mean,
he's
you always
got
see
good
the
range.
green line on NFL, trying to get to this range. Where's our green line at?
Comfortably, now I'd say comfortably he can kick 45 in, and we feel pretty good. He can kick 50 and beyond. Sometimes the big key there that you learn as a young kicker is, now he's got definitely enough leg for it. Big key there is sometimes when it's that far away, you try to kick it harder and you lose some mechanics, and you pull through the ball, you kick it too high, you kick it too low. When you're trying to kick it harder instead of just taking your normal run up and kick because you haven't kicked enough, sometimes NFL kickers, they can put a little more into it if they have to and not lose as much. And even them, it's harder when you get that farther range. But I think, could he make them? Yeah. Big thing we're working on is keep your approach consistent no matter what, because he's got a heck of a leg and can get out there if he no wind, and then and it depends on how cold it is, how heavy the ball is, all that stuff. But no wind or a slight breeze at his back, and we feel pretty good at around 50.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's
Have you bought a Skylar Thompson jersey? Are you going to?
Starting this year.
I know.
This
That's
week.
why I asked.
Cannon wants one.
Oh,
Cannon wants one for
you
Christmas.
should get. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, he wants one for Christmas.
That's
Dolphins.
great. I had to.
How you're
I
a
had to
Dolphins
ask.
fan.
I had to ask.
How
You're the
you're-
only Dolphins
yeah.
fan I know
How you're
on
a
the
Dolphins
planet.
fan
It's-
amazes me.
It's hard.
You live in the land of
I respect it.
Patrick Mahomes, and you're a Miami
Well, you
Dolphins
can't just
fan.
change allegiances. I've been
Never.
a Dolphins fan.
Oh yeah, you
since
can. I was a KU fan for the first 4 weeks, and now that Daniels is hurt, I think I'm gonna hop ship.
That's you, Cody.
Oh,
That's you.
no.
I'm not the only one, I'm sure.
Oh, no.
I'll probably catch some.
Austin
some
will
heat for
probably
that.
give you some purple.
Oh, I have
I'm sure he
so
would.
much.
I'm sure
I
he
have
would.
so
Yeah.
much. I got you.
Okay.
I got
All
you.
right. Well, before we get too far off the rails here, we better wrap it up here.
No Liggett question this week?
No phone-ins from Timish or
Wow.
Liggett. Poor gave us a last-minute one on his way out the door here because I told him we didn't have one, and boy, he came up with that right on the spot.
Well, sure he did.
Yeah, so-
I'm sure if you dig deep enough into his brain, there's lots of things there.
That's a scary place.
That's a scary place to
You
be.
don't want. That's a whole nother
Scary-
podcast.
I just want to point out that I'm taller than him.
There you go.
That's why I brought him on the
Oh.
sideline to do stats on Friday night, so there's someone that I was taller than.
Okay.
I think that's
Yeah.
great.
Okay. All right, Coach. Thank you for coming in, Austin. Always a
great.
pleasure. Good luck Friday night at Nickerson.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Should be a fun one to watch, and we'll be back home next week against Andale. So tune in for the post game of that one and listen to. We'll find out where links are at. I'm not sure what
Follow me on
Nickerson.
Twitter.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Nickerson broadcasts their
Right.
game on. So I don't know if it's
I've not heard anything yet.
YouTube or
The radio,
yeah.
we got you.
I think last time it was a YouTube, if you remember.
I
You guys
don't.
broadcasted last time we were there out of a basement.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we might. I can't remember if we paid for the stream. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll check. Check her
But I
on
can't. I don't
Facebook
know.
or-
I don't know
yeah.
if it's changed or not.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Coach. Tune in. Should be a good game Friday night. That'll do it.